The third step in the risk management process is to select the appropriate combination of techniques for treating the loss exposures. Okay, so let's see what we can do. First, avoidance. Avoidance means a certain loss exposure is never acquired or undertaken, or an existing loss exposure is abandoned. In other words, the chance of loss now is reduced to zero. For example, we say that if you have a dog and your dog bites someone, you need to take responsibility. You need to pay the related costs. Now, if you want to avoid this liability totally, the best way is that you don't have a dog. We call this behavior avoidance. Since you don't have a dog, well, you will never have dog bite liability. Let's see another example. Suppose you live in the suburb and work downtown, so you need to drive to work. Suppose you have two choices. One route to work would require you to pass through an area where carjackings and drive-by shooting are common. So you decide to choose another route. So you abandoned the high crime route. This is also an example of avoidance. Go back to our lecture notes. So avoiding liability for dog bites by not owning a dog or staying away from high crime areas are examples of avoidance. The major advantage of avoidance is that the chance of loss is reduced to zero. So you will never suffer a loss. But the problem is that sometimes it's not possible or practical to avoid all losses. For example, we know that a customer can sue a restaurant owner for unclean food. Do you remember that a customer sued McDonald's because this customer found a live mouse in his milkshake? As a restaurant owner, how to deal with this risk? Well, if you decide to avoid it, it means you don't sell any products. You don't sell any foods. Of course, you reduce the property to zero. But at the same time, it means you won't get any revenues. So in this case, avoidance is not very practical. We need to use other methods to manage this risk. The second method is loss prevention. Loss prevention means that we try to find a way to reduce the frequency of a particular loss. For example, if you drive within the speed limit, you can reduce the chance of getting in a car accident. So this is a loss prevention. Another example, if you remember to lock your door, it helps to reduce the probability of stealing. You probably don't know that locking a door helps a lot. Let's see some quick facts about home burglaries. According to a survey by Eyewitness Surveillance, a burglary occurs every 13 seconds in the US, resulting in a 2.5 million home intrusions reported every year. Actually, many burglaries are preventable. About 30% of burglaries occurred with the intruder entering through an unlocked door. Nearly 1 in 5 people don't lock their doors when they are at home. Specifically, the South likes to leave their doors unlocked. But you know that many of these burglaries were actually preventable. Locking a door can effectively decrease the frequency of burglaries. Let's move to the next method, loss reduction. Loss reduction is to reduce the severity of a loss after it occurs. Loss prevention is to reduce the frequency. Loss reduction is to reduce the severity. For example, wearing a seatbelt reduces the severity of an injury in an auto accident. Another example, installing an automatic sprinkler system can reduce the severity of a fire. I want to point out the importance of automatic fire sprinklers. Automatic fire sprinklers can reduce the average property loss per fire by roughly 70%. So it's a lot. However, according to the National Fire Protection Agency, very few homes are equipped with fire sprinkler systems. On average, installing a home fire sprinkler system costs $1.35 per square root. The total price is comparable to that of installing a stone driveway or new carpets, so it's pretty affordable. Another benefit, if you install automatic fire sprinkler systems, you can pay lower homeowners' insurance premium. So installing an automatic fire sprinkler system is a good way to reduce the loss severity. Next method, duplication. Duplication is quite straightforward. It's better to have backups or copies of important documents or files in case a loss occurs. And remember to keep these copies in different places. Next method, separation. Separation means dividing the assets exposed to loss to minimize the harm from a single event. For example, suppose you are a business owner and you divide your finished goods among 3 storehouses. By doing this, you can prevent all of the finished goods from being destroyed by the same period. Go back to our lecture notes. Separation ensures that if something catastrophic occurs at one location, the impact to the business is limited to the assets owning at that location. On the other hand, if all assets were at that location, then the business would face a much more serious challenge. Next method, retention. Retention means you just keep it, okay, you do nothing. Usually, if you think the loss is small, you probably will keep it. Okay? You probably will do nothing. For example, if now your car is very old, okay, with very low market value, when you purchase an auto insurance policy, you probably don't want to include Part D, okay, coverage for damage to your auto. because, well, even the car is damaged in a car accident, since the market value is already very low, you don't care about it. So you don't want to manage the risk. The last method, insurance. In this class, we already learned a lot. Buying insurance means we transfer our risk to the insurance company. So it's related to risk transfer. After we purchase the insurance policy, during the protection period, if an accident occurs, we suffer a loss, the insurance company will pay the related amount. We already discussed several risk measurement techniques. Now, the next question is which techniques should be used? Of course, we need to consider both loss frequency and loss severity. For low frequency and low severity exposures, usually we use risk retention. These losses do not happen often, and when they do occur, the severity is not very high. For example, if you are a business owner, occasionally your employee may steal the office supplies, but you know that the amount, well, it's not that huge, so it's affordable. So you probably will just keep this risk. In the opposite corner are high frequency, high severity loss exposures. For these exposures, losses can happen frequently and can be severe when they occur. For such exposures, we should avoid it. For example, your company sells medicines, and your company finds that a new medicine may have a harmful side effect. In this situation, this medicine should be removed quickly from the market. If this new medicine is not removed quickly from the market, many customers will buy these new medicines, and finally, it may result in a huge loss for this company. So for high loss frequency and high loss severity exposures, we need to avoid it. Next, for high loss severity and low loss frequency exposures, we better transfer the risk. And how to transfer this risk? We can buy insurance. We can transfer this risk to the insurance company. For example, if you are a business owner, your production facility may not be damaged by a fire often, but the severity of such a loss might be great. So you want to transfer this risk to the insurance company. When the accident happens, you suffer a loss. The insurance company will pay the related insurance amount. Finally, for a high loss frequency and low loss severity exposures, we can use several risk control techniques, such as loss prevention, loss reduction, duplication, and separation to manage this risk. Finally, I want to point out that in practice, we may combine several techniques to manage the risk. For example, you may purchase